It seems like Jimi Hendrix is back in the news, and everyone is talking about him. After more than 50 years, Washington State finally said what music fans already knew. Things are getting really big on stages across America for the first time since before COVID. There are music stars who want to be a part of it. One famous person is even coming out of retirement to join in. What's going on with Jimi Hendrix right now is making the internet go crazy. John Paul Hendrix was born on November 27, 1945, in Seattle. Al and Lucille were their parents. They had trouble with money and fought a lot. She was only 17 years old when Jimmy was born. Al served in the Army in Alabama. When he asked for time off, he was locked up for more than a month and couldn't go home. Jimmy's childhood was a mess. Both of my parents drank a lot. Their house was not stable. 4 of his brothers were taken by the government and put in care. Jimmy was sent to CA to stay with a family friend for a short time. When Al got home from the war in 1945, he took Jimmy back to Seattle. Al and Lucille split up in 1951. Jimmy and his younger brother Leon were given to Al as his children. Jim was 15 years old when Lucille died of liver disease in 1958. The boys weren't allowed to go to the funeral by Al. He gave them whiskey instead and said, "This is how men deal with loss." At that time, Jimmy found solace in music. It had always interested him. He used to carry a broom around school and act like it was a guitar. Social workers saw him and asked the school if they could buy him one, but nothing come of it. Jimmy found a broken ukulele with only one string when he was 15 years old and helping his dad clean out a house in 1957. The woman who lived there told him he could keep it. Jim learned how to play by himself. Putting on Elvis Presley music, Al finally got a real guitar after his mother died. It was his way out. He learned on his own while listening to blues and early rock. He quit Garfield High School when he was 17 years old, in 1959. He only cared about music. He played in bands in the area such as the Rockin' Kings and the Velvetones. He didn't have a steady job and often had trouble making ends meet. He slept in empty cars sometimes, but he never stopped playing. He paid close attention to other artists. They played the guitar with their teeth. One of them was Butch Snipes. He took the move and added it to his act. In 1961, Jimmy was 19 years old when he was caught riding in a stolen car. He was locked up for a week. He could either go to jail or join the Army. He joined the Army and was put in the 101st Airborne Division. Hendrix was interested in the Screaming Eagles because of how well known they were. During World War II, this division fought in the D-Day landings. At Fort Ord in California, he began his basic training. By August 1961, he was done with his schooling and became a friend. At that point, he was sent to Fort Campbell in Kentucky. It was hard for Hendrix to be in the Army. He didn't like how things were set up or the rules. He wrote to his dad and told him how much he hated being in the service. One thing, though, kept him going. Betty Jean was the name he gave to his Red Dane electro guitar. He played it all the time. Billy Cox was another man that Hendrix met at Fort Campbell. Cox played the bass. Music brought them together right away, and they became good friends. They got together and made a band called the King Casuals. They started putting on shows near the base and sometimes in towns close. His plans for the future began even while he was in the military. He was only in the Army for 13 months before his time was up in 1962. The official reason was that he hurt his ankle on his 26th parachute jump. The Army said he could no longer handle the physical duties, but other records show that he wasn't doing a good job. He didn't do his bed checks, slept through his shifts, failed shot drills, and did poorly in physical training. Some news stories even said he seemed gay, which at the time could get someone released. Hendrix still got an honorable release despite all of this. They moved to Clarksville, Tennessee, after Hendrix got out of the war. They were eager to keep making music. They played in small places and kept the name King Casuals. Before Hendrix made his own style, this was the time. When he played the guitar, he turned it over so that the right hand was facing down. He began to do tricks too, like playing with his teeth and behind his head. There was a lot of pressure to entertain. Hendrix once said, "Even skill isn't enough." Wished for a show. You didn't get asked back if you didn't stand out. Some band leaders didn't like how flashy he was and thought he was trying to get all the attention. But Hendrix kept making his show better. On the Chitlin tour from 1962 to 1965, He played guitar as a backup. During segregation, this was a list of places in the South, Midwest, and East Coast where black artists could play. Things were not going well. Often the pay was very little or none at all. Bob Rush, who also played, said that they were paid in food sometimes. In January 1964, Jimi Hendrix didn't know what to do. He had played behind other artists for years, living under their radar and following their rules. He wants to have more say over his music and career now. He then made a choice. He quit the backup jobs and moved into the Harlem Hotel Teresa. It was there that he met Lithithaean Pregon. She was known as Faye. He became her boyfriend because she was in the Harlem music scene. He had a place to stay, she helped him, and she pushed him to keep going. He also met Arthur and Albert Allen around that time. Their family had been in Harlem clubs for a long time. Hendrix began playing in small venues and filling in for other bands all over the city in an effort to get known. He took part in the amateur night event at the Apollo Theater in February 1964. He came in first. That made him feel better. That showed he could handle a big group by himself. A friend from the Jotex band helped him get an audition with Ronnie Isley not long after that win. He liked Hendrix so much that he hired him to play guitar in the Isley Brothers' backing band. He said yes, right away. It was a big step forward. Hendrix made his first recording track in March 1964. The single was called Testify with the Isley Brothers and had two parts. The song came out in June, but it didn't do well on the charts. It was a start though. A song by Don Covey called Mercy Mercy was played by him in May. It was released in August and got to number 35 on the Billboard list. Many months of 1964 were spent on tour with the Isleys. By October, though, he was sick of playing the same set every night. His mind was set on something else, so he quit the band. Soon after, he joined Little Richard's traveling band, the Upsetters. They went to Los Angeles in February 1965. There, he and Little Richard cut a song called Don't Know What You Got, But It's Got Me. The song came out on VJ Records and was written by Don Covey. It only got to number 92 on the charts for 1 week. Little Richard wasn't as well known at that point. Pink Floyd met Rosa Lee Brooks, a musician, while they were both staying at the Wilcox Hotel in Hollywood. He was asked to play guitar on her song. My Diary was on the A side, and UT was on the B side. Arthur Lee wrote both of the songs. Hendrix laid down the guitar on both songs and even got to know Lee while they were recording. Hendrix later became a big fan of Lee's band Love after they became friends. The first time Hendrix was seen on TV was in July 1965. It was on Night Train, a local show on WALAC-TV in Nashville. He played with Little Richard's band and backed up Buddy and Stacy on the song Shotgun. This is the first video we know of Hendrix playing live. But things were not going well with Little Richard. They often fought. It was fun for Hendrix to show off on stage. He dressed in flashy clothes that didn't go with Richard's style. Hendrix was fired from the band by Richard's brother Robert at the end of July. It was July 27, 1965, when Hendrix signed his first music deal. It was with Juggy Murray at Sue Records and Copa, a marketing firm. After that, he went back to the Eisenhower for a short time and recorded another song. Move Over and Let Me Dance was the A-side, and Have You Ever Been Disappointed was the B-side. After the year was over, Hendrix met Curtis Knight at a hotel. Knight was in charge of an R&B group called The Squire. Hendrix moved in with them for 8 months. How Would You Feel was made by Hendrix and Knight in October 1965. Welcome Home was on the B-side. However, Hendrix had already signed a 2-year deal with Sue Record. He also signed another contract on October 15, 1965. This one was with a man called Ed Chalpin and was for 3 years. The deal stuck around longer than the union. Hendrix had trouble with it later in his career. Hendrix worked with other acts between gigs with Curtis Knight and the Squires. He went on tour with Starlighter and Joey D. He made a song with King Curtis. He played on Ray Sharp's song Help Me as well. There were 2 parts to that track. In 1966, Hendrix got his first credit for writing a song. Hornet's Nest and Knock Your were 2 instrumentals he wrote that were both recorded as singles by Curtis Knight and the Squire. Hendrix was ready to leave the R&B scene by 1966. He went to New York's Greenwich Village. It felt very creative in that area. It had new ideas, artists, and songs in it. It was Hendrix's job to play at Cafe Oa. Listeners, there is a character in the ballroom who feels like a gentle voice that would come next to McDougal Street. Jimmy James and the Blue Flames is the name of the new band he formed. Randy California was a member, and he went on to form the band Spirit. The Blue Flames played all over New York. His sound changed because of those shows. He began to try out new styles and moves on stage. The band's last shows together were in September 1966 at Manhattan's Cafe Ogogo. At that point, they were singing backup for a singer named John Hammond. Jimi Hendrix arrived at London Airport on September 24, 1966, with almost nothing. He borrowed $40, had a change of clothes, hair curlers, and a guitar with him. The new name for the airport was Heathrow. His life would change because of this trip, but he didn't know it yet. In the beginning of that summer, he played small shows in New York City as Jimmy James. Chaz Chandler, who used to play bass for the band Animals, saw him perform one night at Cafe Wha in Greenwich Village. Chandler wanted to hire new people. After seeing Hendrix play, he knew he had found something rare. It was only 12 days after Jimmy got to London that the Jimi Hendrix Experience came together. It took place on October 6, 1966. Chandler quickly got bands to come in. He ran into Noel Redding at a casting call for the new Animals. Jimmy liked that he understood how blues development worked. I liked his hair, too. It was different. Mitch Mitchell was called by Chandler for the drummer. Mitchell had just been fired from his job with Georgie fame in the Blue Flames. He and Jimmy became friends because they both liked rhythm and blues music. Chandler also helped make Jimmy look like that. He said that the name should be changed from Jimmy to Jimmy. It changed the way the name looked and made it more special. Right away, the band began to play. Within a week, they went on tour with French singer Johnny Hallyday for 4 shows. On October 22nd, they recorded their first song, Hey Joe, at Delane Lee Studios in London. Jimmy had been in England for less than a month, but it wasn't easy to record. The studio tools had trouble with their loud Marshall amps. Jimmy was also scared about singing. Stone Free, the single's B-side, was taken on November 2nd to a song leading their band that was their own. Chandler told him to write it so Jimmy could make money by selling the rights to sell it. It was hard for them to get a record deal, even though they were very good. Kit Lambert and Chris Stamp, who were The Who's managers, finally signed them to their new label, Track Records. The first record from Track came out on December 16, 1966, through Polydor. This was because the band was still new. Hey Joe went straight to number 41 on the UK charts. It stayed on the chart for 10 weeks and got to number 6. Jimmy was on TV shows like Top of the Pops and Ready Steady Go, which helped the song get more attention. He had been a backup guitarist in small New York bars before. He was now a star. Chaz Chandler made a plan. He meant for the right people to see Hendrix play. Just 1 week after Jimmy got there, on October 4, 1966, Chandler took him to see Cream play at London Polytechnic. He asked to be able to join them on stage. They agreed. The crowd was shocked when he played Killing Floor by Howlin' Wolf. Eric Clapton was stunned and shocked when the song was over. Chandler asked him, "You never told me he was that fucking good," as he lit a cigarette. Jimmy was putting on shows at the Bag o' Nails Club in the middle of November. Paul McCartney, John Lennon, Mick Jagger, Jeff Beck, Pete Townsend, and Brian Jones were among the famous people in the crowd. What they saw shocked them. Harris Kev remembered the scene and said that everyone was yelling because they were so shocked. At that point, Jimmy and his girlfriend Kathy Etchingham moved into 34 Montague Square. Ringo Starr owned the apartment. Chandler and his partner lived there too. Jimmy played at fancy clubs like the Scotch of St. James, which is close to Buckingham Palace. It was like the Rolling Stones and the Beatles each had their own table. Chandler had finished what he had planned. In just 2 months, he made Hendrix the song that everyone in London talked about. Still, not everything went as planned. Jimmy loved making music and had strong ideas about how it should sound. When they were making the first tracks for Hey Joe, Chandler told him to turn down the amps. They caused a big temper tantrum. Jimmy yelled that that wasn't a good place to work. He said it would be best to go back to New York. Chandler didn't get upset. He had Jimmy's passport and return flight ticket in his pocket and had just come from the visa office. He put them on the mixing desk and told them to fuck off. To America. In a different version, he just said fuck off. Jimmy laughed and told him, "Okay, you called my bluff." They agreed on how to work together after that. Jimmy wanted to be free. Chandler let him be alone, but he also made sure everything went as planned. On June 8th, things really changed.